from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up today on AgDay, USDA shocking the markets with better than expected production and yields, meaning red plastered across the CME on Thursday.
Definitely a bearish tone coming out of these reports.
That's as production shines in the southern states. Trade talks heat up, and it has ag groups and businesses on edge on both sides of the border. In agribusiness, it's not just a trend of heavier weights creating a story in the cattle market.
We're seeing a big shift in movement of calves and yearlings this year.
And ditching dairy is a popular trend, but it's not what the doctor ordered.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Tyne Morgan. Clinton Griffiths is on assignment. He'll join us in just a few minutes. USDA stumped traders with its August crop production estimates, while the Ag Department lowered its expectations for the 2017 corn crop. It's still higher than what analysts were expecting. USDA trimmed its estimate of the U.S. corn yield to 169.5 bushels an acre. It's down 5 bushels from last year, but still higher than the average pre-report guess of 166 bushels an acre. Production, that comes in at 14.2 billion bushels, 7% lower than last year. But again, that's much higher than what traders expected. USDA bumped the soybean yield to 49.4 bushels an acre. Last month, it was 48 bushels to the acre. New production estimates come in at 4.4 billion bushels. Focusing on the top 5 corn states, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota are all lower than last year's production levels. Iowa has a statewide average yield 15 bushels below last year. Indiana, that's unchanged despite declining crop conditions. And Nebraska is actually higher from last year. And in soybeans, all 5 of those states also have dropped in their state average yields. While the corn yields dropped in the Midwest, southern states are seeing big gains in yields. This USDA map lays it out rather clearly. The blue reflects increase in yields throughout the South, while the red indicates losses in the Corn Belt. Betsy Gibbon breaks down those southern numbers. Betsy?
USDA says this crop could potentially be the 3rd largest on record. And when you look at the numbers, the southern states seem to be shining this year. 9 southern states are seeing double-digit gains with corn yields. But it's important to note fewer planted acres means 6 of those 9 states are seeing lower total production. Of the most impressive, Alabama's yield per acre is up 45 from last year. Louisiana's yield per acre is up 27 from 2016. And Mississippi's yield estimate is up 19 bushels per acre from last year as well. Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina also seeing double-digit boosts in yield. But when you add in acres, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North and South Carolina are expected with total production to actually drop slightly this year. Keeping things in perspective, when we look at total production acres, those 9 southern states add up to just over 5 million acres. Compare the production acres to Iowa, which is expected to have an estimate of more than 13 million corn acres.
Thanks, Betsy. Drought in the northern plains has taken a big bite from spring wheat production. It dropped 402 million bushels. That's a drop from 534 million bushels last year. All wheat production comes in at 1.7 billion bushels. That's down about 500 million bushels from last year. Now to the supply and demand tables. Domestic carryover in new crop corn was trimmed slightly to 2.2 billion bushels from July estimate. Old crop corn was untouched, and new crop soybean ending stocks pushed higher to 475 million bushels. Old crop dipped 370 million bushels. The USDA report sending negative signals across commodity markets. We have reaction. Let's start with Pro Farmer.
USDA's August crop production and supply and demand reports were bearish. Numbers for the production side, corn, beans, and wheat, all came in higher than expected, as did new crop carryover projections for all 3 commodities there. So definitely a bearish tone coming out of these reports. The headliners, obviously, were the corn and soybean estimates there, the first survey-based estimates, and when we look at those, both of them coming in higher than what was anticipated, and the history over the past 20 years tells us that on corn it's about a 50-50 proposition. USDA may go up, it may come down, but on soybeans there's a 2/3 chance that they will go up from where they were here with their August estimate, even though it came in higher than anticipated and above trendline levels, which was a major surprise. For the Pro Farmer editors here in Cedar Falls, Iowa, I'm Brian Grady.
Thanks so much. Well, we're less than a week away from U.S. officials diving into trade talks with both Mexico and Canada. It's a deal more than 20 years old. Clinton Griffiths is in Mexico heading into the negotiations, and he says there's a lot riding on the line for both U.S. and Mexico agriculture. And no matter the outcome, it will have a ripple effect. Clinton?
We're on the border between Texas and Mexico at the Progreso border crossing, where every day trucks just like this, loaded with 275,000 bushels of grain, about 200 trucks total, cross into Mexico every day from the United States. Those trucks that leave southern Texas for Mexico, many of them will end up here at Forajera Elizondo. It's a small feed mill in Apodaca, Mexico, just outside Monterrey. And the owner says it's NAFTA that allows him to be competitive in his business.
We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how we're going to be able to adapt to work if NAFTA is phased out. They tell us in general, you won't be able to import anything from the United States. Obviously, we're not going to just stay still. We're going to try to do something. We're going to try to go to South America and try to buy something there from South America. We're going to buy some grain, but it's going to be hard for us to compete with the big companies.
This 20,000 head feedlot sits just 90 miles south of Laredo, Texas. And thanks to NAFTA, they're buying a lot of American products here. Just take their feed, for instance. They're using corn, DDGs, cottonseed. They're also using technology and equipment from the U.S. to run the feed mill and American genetics in their cattle herd.
The only thing that I'm afraid of is for some tariffs to be added. Que le vayan a poner algún arancel y qué más? And that is going to have an effect on production costs. The end consumer is going to be the one that's going to be damaged or is going to feel it the most. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Thanks, Clinton. A prolonged downturn in the farm economy is still quite evident in several key regions of the Federal Reserve, but there is a hint of optimism at the end of the second quarter. A report from the Kansas City Federal Reserve suggests that economic conditions in the farm sector may be stabilizing. While credit conditions weakened further from April to June, the pace was slowed somewhat, and farmland values also trended lower. The KC Fed says the value of irrigated cropland dropped 7%, non-irrigated is down 5%, and ranch land is down 4% from a year ago. Meanwhile, at the Chicago Fed, which covers the core of the Corn Belt, farmland values in the second quarter of 2017 were 1% higher than a year ago. This is the first year-over-year gain in 3 years. While district-wide farmland values climbed, Illinois and Indiana experienced year-over-year decreases. And like Kansas City, credit conditions in the Chicago district deteriorated at a slower rate. All right, let's check some conditions in the field. Mike Hoffman has a look in this morning's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Tyne. Today's crop comment is from Lauren Turley in Union County, Kentucky. Lauren says she is chopping silage and is about 20 days ahead of last year since the dry weather has set in. According to USDA, Kentucky is seeing double-digit yield gain so far. And taking a look at the drought monitor, you can see the very dry conditions continue in the northern plains with spotty dry areas through the central areas. We'll look at that a little closer and have your forecast coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Save time each day and receive the latest market prices directly to your cell phone with market updates. It makes it effortless to stay aware of shifting market prices. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
Still to come, we shift away from all that grain news to livestock. Eroding basis could entice feed yards to hang on to cattle a little longer. That's an analysis. And we head to Farm Journal College, where heavy disease pressure is overcoming fields this year. Are you taking the right steps to address it? Plus, why moms are ditching dairy against doctors' orders. That's as we head in the country. Still in agribusiness, unless you're a bear, Thursday was not a good day in the markets with double-digit losses. So why did USDA's report trigger such a negative reaction? Let's head now to the floor of the CME.
We are seeing some pressure in the grains, and some is probably an underestimate. We're seeing corn, soybeans, wheat all trade significantly lower, trading at some of the lowest levels we haven't seen since last year. But on a technical basis, I think we're at some of these levels that start to represent some fairly decent value. 373 is where we closed on this day last year. 374 is, we haven't traded below that for the first time since September. 375 is what we held basically all year. So if we can stay above the 370 mark, I think it offers really good value. However, on the flip side, to manage your risk, if we do close below that, I think we could see some accelerated selling pressure from the funds, press us down towards the last August lows of 358 to 364. That's what we're looking at to round out the week. That's what you should be looking at too. This has been Oliver Soap with iTrader from the floor of the CME.
Here now with Don Close of Rabobank. Don, as we head into fall, do you think that we will see heavier weights? I mean, we know with those attractive prices that we saw weights kind of drop off. Do you think we climb higher?
You know, earlier today, I saw the weekly slaughter data come out. Both steer and heifer carcasses were up 3 pounds over the same week a week ago. So yes, I do. Part of what I've been concerned with was a lot of the appeal in the aggressive marketings that we saw throughout the spring. Not only were we seeing exceptional clearance of product at the marketplace, but cash price was running so far over futures that the hedgers were able to capture phenomenal basis gains. That has essentially washed out of the market. If the basis gains are washed out of the market, that shifts the incentive of the cattle feeder from conversions and what is my cost of gain opposed to the price of a fed steer. And when that price spreads as wide as it is today, I think that will be a catalyst to encourage heavier weights as we get late summer and into fall.
Yeah, and what about the movement of feeder cattle and calves versus a year ago? Are you seeing any differences there?
We're seeing a big shift in movement of calves and yearlings this year. I think there's two big drivers. One is a year ago, cattle feeders were in a really tough position. A lot of them were at a point where they had to buy feeder cattle that would hedge the day they bought them, or they were not. Their lender would not go with them.
Yep.
This year, we've had 6 months of very good returns to cattle feeding that leaves that cattle feeder in a much stronger position. He will probably use some of that money he's captured this year.
All right, Don Close, thank you so much. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Ag Day after the break.
Rabo AgriFinance is a leading provider of agricultural finance services. Their exclusive research gives clients a competitive advantage. Visit www.raboag.com.
Welcome back on this Friday. Well, a little birdie told me, Mike, you have some good news.
I'm getting old.
Well, I guess that's good news. Other than that.
A grandfather now, first time.
So is it grandfather or grandpa? What's the name going to be?
Grandpa, I think, but whatever they want to call me.
That is so
fine.
true.
Yes. Amelia and Amelia Connie. Connie is my mom's name, so that is Amelia's middle name.
And healthy? Very
healthy, doing great. Yeah, we're loving every second of it, obviously.
So happy for you. Congratulations.
I've joined the club of many of you.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. All right, here we go. Let's check out the drought monitor. You can see the dry conditions continue in the northern sections of the country. So let's go back 4 weeks or a month and see what it looked like. You can see we did not have any exceptional areas 1 month ago. So as we go day by day with this, you will see how things have actually gotten worse across North Dakota, especially northern South Dakota, into much of eastern Montana over the past 4 weeks. And unfortunately, I don't see that improving a bunch. Now, we showed you the groundwater, the upper levels parts of the ground, the root zone moisture that we now call it, has turned a little wet in that area. So you would think there'd be some improvement over time, but we need more rain. It takes a while to get rid of a drought. All right, here's the weather map. 2 systems. One is a stationary front in the southeast. Another one from the Great Lakes into the southern plains with some scattered showers and thunderstorms along it. mainly afternoon and evening in this situation, and you can see that's the same idea out west. There's a big dome of high pressure in the upper atmosphere, so that's tamping things down in the west, but you'll still get some activity in the afternoons, especially kind of in New Mexico there between the area of low pressure and the cold front. You can see by tomorrow morning showers and thunder showers into the northeastern portions of the country. High pressure builds in again, and this is another fairly cool air mass for this time of the year. Little area of low pressure kind of in the upper atmosphere mainly, causing some showers and thunderstorms in the western plains by later tomorrow. There's a precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, adding in the next 36. You can see how really the central plains, especially Oklahoma, into the southeast is who gets the most, but it'll be spotty activity from New England back into the northern plains. High temperatures today on the pleasant side, lots of 70s, northern plains into the Great Lakes, 80s farther south, a few 90s, mostly 90s in Texas and the desert southwest. Low temperatures in the morning, 50s and 60s in the plains behind that cold front, and highs tomorrow kind of more of the same. These are very comfortable numbers for the northeast quadrant of the country. And take a look at the jet stream. You can see how we have that trough there, but watch what happens as we head into next week. We kind of see this ridge come in and then we go zonal, and that means a little bit of a warm up farther east than we've seen. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Tucson, Arizona, hot again, an afternoon thunderstorm in spots, high of 101. Ottumwa, Iowa, partly sunny, comfortably warm, high of 83. And finally, Huntsville, Alabama, clouds and humid, thunderstorm in many areas, high of 86.
Still to come, getting the math right on applying herbicides and pesticides. We head to the field with Farm Journal College. Plus, some moms are banning dairy from their kids' diets, but that math isn't adding up for experts. We'll tell you why as we head in the country. Welcome back. Well, Clinton is pulling double duty this week. He takes us to the field for this week's Farm Journal College, where we look at the math behind pesticide and herbicide applications. Clinton?
We're joined by Fred Whitford. He's a pesticide specialist here at Purdue University. Fred, we're getting ready to spray a field here.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about making sure we have the right amount of pesticide or herbicide or whatever we're doing.
That's correct.
To fit the tank size that we
You know, we happen to be here in plots, but if you're a farmer, you've got all this money already invested in fertilizer, you got invested in seed. This is your livelihood. And so obviously we got weeds, insects, diseases that want to take away a little of our yield. And so we rely on these products to be able to control them. I mean, spend a lot of money to get a lot of money back on the other end. But you know, sometimes we forget it's the simple things in life that makes a difference. And this Hagee sprayer, we've got 1,000 gallons worth of water on it, 2 different tanks, but 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
So I'll ask you, if we're going to put on, let's say in these plots here,
right,
we're going to do about 20 acres, 20 gallons of water per acre.
Okay.
How many acres will my tank do?
It'll do about 50.
About 50 acres.
Right.
Times 5 ounces per acre by the one label.
Right.
That's 250 ounces.
250 ounces.
I can sit right here and not have to do anything and tell you what goes into it. But what happens if that tank is not 1,000 gallons worth of water?
Well, then you've got a problem, right?
Yes, because all of my mix rates went to that. The 2 problems we got is if we had one that was said it was a 900 gallon, it was actually 1,100 gallons. So he mixed up enough chemical for 90 and spread it over a larger amount. He diluted his product.
Right, which is a problem.
Which is a big problem because now I don't get control, and especially on these invasive weeds and these insects that we're fighting.
Still to come, doing away with dairy is an increasing fad, but why this popular trend is discounting medical advice. That's when we return and head in the country.
In the country. Brought to you by Kubota. See the all-new Commander Pro zero-turn mower at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Welcome back. Well, more moms are growing less keen on milk, but ditching dairy may not be what the doctor is ordering. A new survey from the National Osteoporosis Foundation finding 6 in 10 moms have either tried or are restricting dairy in their children's diet. Now, some are even banning their kids from drinking milk. Many celebrity websites and diet books show ditching dairy is a good thing. However, experts say going dairy-free can have significant downfalls, especially in kids and young adults. Dairy is the main food source of 3 of the 4 nutrients in the dietary guidelines for Americans, including potassium, calcium, and vitamin D. The guidelines suggest 2 to 3-year-olds drink 2 cups of milk a day, and 9-year-olds and up should drink 3 cups a day. Maybe some of you are enjoying some milk right now. All right, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Mike Hoffman and all of us at AgDay, I'm Tyne Morgan. Have a great weekend in farm country.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.